We need to have men tell us, what do you think is a good boyfriend, a good husband, a good father, and a good man? Define those four things. And if they give you four very distinctly different answers, then they likely are going to change as they go through these different roles in their life.
So go back and watch that video if you haven't already. Doug's making a great point about how men often change through the various stages of their relationship, performing almost like a bait and switch. However, I do want to pivot off that to talk about this idea that the qualities of a good man, a good boyfriend, a good husband, and a good father are largely the same. Because while I do think there are some qualities that are necessary for all, such as compassion, kindness, and empathy, I do think that tying them all together is a big part of the problem. Men are socialized to this idea that if you're just a good man, then you'll also make a good husband and a good father. If you just find a good job, keep your head down, work hard, and provide, then the rewards of a house, a wife, and kids will follow along effortlessly. And this is the lie that has been sold to men for generations and continues even today. And what this does is it creates this idea that if your life lives outside that narrative, then there must be something wrong with you. It speaks to a very rigid, linear, and cis heteronormative view of what a man's identity is. It's what creates the massive entitlement problem that incels have. If these are all the same, and I live my life as a good and kind man, then it also follows that I would make a good husband and a good father. So why don't I have a wife and children? Why are women rejecting not only these quote-unquote nice guys, but also legitimately good men? Do they not realize that this is the plan and the progression path for all men? A path that I must be on and complete in order for me to feel whole. And this view of a man's identity is what causes men, when their marriage or access to their children is threatened, to annihilate themselves and often their entire families. How can I be a good man if I've failed as a husband or a father? So they wipe the slate clean. The reality is there are genuinely good fathers who are absolute disasters as a husband. You can be a good man, but make a terrible boyfriend. And I think it's important to not just recognize this, but to validate it as well. That it's entirely acceptable for any man to recognize they do not want and probably should not be a parent. Maybe they have neither the patience nor the interest. Or to be self-aware enough to recognize that monogamy and marriage are not for you. And that this does not make you less of a good man or mean that you live a life without meaning or purpose because you accept that you might not be a good spouse or a good father. Part of the deprogramming a lot of men, particularly young men, still need to do is untangling all of this mess. Recognizing that marriage and children are less of a default and more so less of a desire for a lot of men, and that is perfectly okay. The important thing is celebrating an identity as a man that is rooted in being secure within ourselves and self-aware, and not tying our identity, our value, and our worth as a man to the external validation gained from pursuing a spouse or kids, and then using those or the lack thereof to prove to ourselves whether or not we are good men.